Hello everyone! In this video I'm going to go over the practice questions for test 1. So first, the rules and the format of the exam. The real test is only going to be about 1/3 to 1/2 the length of this set of practice questions. But with that in mind, make sure that you're able to do these quickly enough. You will be allowed to bring a cheat sheet, which will be an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, double-sided. That's standard printer paper. You can write whatever you want on your sheet by hand only. So for example, you can include Python syntax, example code, you can put the answers to these review questions, you can put inspirational quotes, you can draw a sketch of your cat, anything you want as long as you do it by hand. There are going to be 2 parts to this test. Part 1 will be reading code and part 2 will be writing code. So in the reading code part, for every question, you just have to write down what will print out when the program runs. So I'm going to give you a box with lines. It'll look similar to this. Where you're going to write down every line that will print out. So do not include anything in the printout area that will not print out. So there's going to be a lined box, just like this one here that says CSCI-181 for the example. That's where you're going to put everything that will print out. And there could be more than one line of things that print out, so I'll give you extra lines. I might give you like more lines than you need in most cases, just so you can't kind of use that as a way to check your answer. If there will be an error and the program won't actually run, you can just write error. You don't have to write the whole, error message. Nobody can memorize those. And you can put your scratch work anywhere else on the page, just not in the printout box. Okay, so only put things that will print out in the printout box. So this is what it will more or less look like. So you can put scratch work on the problem or on the question. You can put scratch work in the margins, but in the lined box where you're supposed to write things that print out, only write things that will actually print out. Okay, so basically you have to pretend like you're Python, run the code in your head, and print out the parts that are going to print. Okay, so now let's go over the practice questions. So each code block below is going to be a separate program. So like this is a one-line program, this is a different one-line program, this is a different one-line program, and so on. So for each question, read the code block, pretend you're Python, write down what's going to print out. If there's more than one print command in the program, or for example, if there's like a print command inside of a loop, write the result of each print command on its own line, just like Python will do. Do not include anything that will not print. If there will be an error, you can just write error, and you can put scratch work anywhere else on the page. Okay, I know I'm going over these instructions like, too much, but it's because I've seen so many mistakes on the tests where people are like putting their scratch work in the answer box. I'm like, no, that's not going to print out. Okay, so these first ones are like really pretty simple. They're just making sure that you know how all the different operations work. So you should be able to go through these like quite quickly. So I'm going to put what I think will print out in a comment like this to the side. And then I'm going to run these, of course, and see what actually prints out and check them. Obviously, you could check these by just running them. But the point is to practice, doing it and make sure that you can anticipate in advance. Okay, so this is division. So anytime you divide 2 numbers in Python, the result will be a float, so it'll have a decimal place in it. This is division, but this is integer division. So this will be how many times does 2 go into 7, and it's going to ignore the remainder. So 2 goes into 7 3 times, and you're going to get an integer result, so no decimal. All right, so we can go ahead and check and make sure these are correct. All right, this one is multiplication, so we're just going to get 16. So an integer times an integer will be an integer. This is exponentiation, so this is actually 8 squared, so we're going to get 64. And if you square an integer, you'll get an integer result, so no decimal. This is the remainder after long division. So if I would do long division of 8 divided by 3, the remainder would be 2, because 3 goes into 8 2 times, and then that gives you 6, so there's 2 left over. This will be another integer. So this one you can already see from the Google underline that something is wrong. But on the test, you won't have that to clue you in that something is wrong. But this is not an operation that exists. There's no double percentage sign operation. So this is going to give you an error if you try to run it. Okay. This one is just combining 2 operations. So make sure you understand the order of operations is PEMDAS, same as in math. So it's parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication and division at the same time from left to right, and then addition and subtraction at the same time from left to right. And then after that come the comparison operators, but I'll talk about those in a second. So the multiplication here will happen first. So you're going to get 6, and then 8 is added to that, so it's 14. Okay. This is another one, just making sure you understand order of operations. So the exponent will be done first. So this will be 2 squared, so that'll be 4. And then we're going to do 4 times 3, so that's 12. And then we're adding 8 to that, so that's 20. Okay, another order of operations one right here. So this is multiplication and division are in here together. There's 2 divisions and a multiplication. So these are going to be carried out from left to right. So we're going to do 36 over 3 first, and we'll get 12. And it'll actually be a float because it's division, so it'll be 12.0. And then we're going to have that divided by 2. So 12.0 divided by 2, that's going to be 6.0. And then we're multiplying that by 2. So 6.0 times 2 is 12.0. I'm just putting a space here because it's a little easier to read. Okay, so the next one, this is not actually an operation. It's just a way of using the print command. When you put a comma between things, they both get printed out with a space between them. So this is going to print hi there. And make sure you understand that the quotes are not going to print out. Okay, you know that already, right? When you print things with quotes around them, the quotes don't actually print. Okay, this one, we're doing plus between 2 strings. So those are just going to get glued together, those strings. And so there will not be a space between them. So it'll print out like this. Hi there. Maybe I shouldn't be putting these spaces after my comment hashes because it doesn't actually print that space, but I don't know. I was already doing it up here, so just make sure you understand like the initial space here. I'm just doing that to make this easier for you guys to read. It does not actually get printed. Like there's no space in front of this. Okay. What if we do high times there? That is not an operation you can do, so this will give you an error. There's no multiplying strings. Okay, it literally is telling you cannot multiply strings by strings. You can multiply strings by integers. If you do this, it will just repeat the string that many times. So this will be high, high, high. You cannot add an integer to a string. That doesn't make sense. What would that even mean? So this an error. Now here it kind of looks like you're adding an integer to a string, but actually these are 2 strings. So it's just going to glue them together like when you do high plus there. So this will just be high 3 because it's not the integer 3, it's the string containing 3. Okay. This one is another one that's trying to kind of trick you. This is not multiplying high times an integer. This is another string. Okay, so you can't multiply 2 strings together, so we're going to get an error. Okay, this one you can already see you're going to get an error. So it looks like you're checking whether 5 equals 4, but that's not what this does. If you want to check whether 2 numbers are equal, you use double equal sign. Single equal sign is used for variable assignment. And this, to Python, this looks like you're trying to assign the integer 5 to hold the value of the integer 4, which does not make any sense. Okay, so Python's going to give you an error because you're trying to assign 5 a new value. You can't do that. So it's literally telling you, yeah, you cannot put an assignment like this. Okay, this one is checking, so this is checking 5 not equal to 4, and it's going to check whether that's true or false, and that is true. 5 does not equal 4, that is true. So it's going to print true. Make sure you capitalize correctly. True always has capital T, lowercase RUE. False has capital F, lowercase ALSE. Okay, no other capitalization is allowed. This, you can already see it's an error, but it looks like someone was trying to check 5 less than or equal to 6. Just like the words less than or equal, the less than comes first. The symbol for the less than or equal, the less than part comes first. Okay, so it's like this one down here is the correct way of doing it. And same with the greater equal sign, just like how you say greater than or equal, the greater than sign comes first. Okay, you cannot reverse the order of those. So you'll get an error if you do. Okay, so this one is checking, is 5 greater than or equal to 6? It is not. I apologize for the traffic noises. I think it's totally an SU student. Whenever I hear a loud car, I'm like, yep, must be an SU student. Sorry, I live right by campus, so you guys drive by a lot. Okay, so that is false. 5 is not greater than or equal to 6. This one is checking, is 5 equal to 5? And that is true. This one is checking, is 5 less than or equal to 5? That is true. So it's just basic math comparisons. This one is another one where I'm trying to trick you with using 3 equal signs. You cannot use 3. Don't use 1, don't use 3, only use 2 when you're trying to check for equality. Here's another one I was just trying to trick you, like that's not a comparison you can do. That doesn't mean anything. So it's another error. Okay, so now some using the word in. This is another SU student going by. I don't know if you can hear them. So this is checking, you can check if things are in strings, but you can only check if other strings are in strings. So this 3 on the left, that is not a string. So you cannot check whether it's in this string over here. So this is definitely going to give you an error. Okay, you can't check like this. Yeah, so it says right here, in string requires string as left operand, not int. It's saying you should put a string on the left, not an integer. So here we've done it the right way. You can check whether the string 3 is in the string 33, and it is because the 3 is like right there or right there. Okay, so this one is going to be true. You can also check whether things are in lists. So you can check whether any type of value is in a list. So here it's checking if 3 is one of the entries in this list, and it is. So this is going to be true. Now down here, this is a little bit tricky, but it's asking, is 3 one of the entries in this list? This is a really short 1-entry list, only contains the 1 entry 33. So 3 is not an entry that is in this list. So this one is going to be false. Okay. All right. What about I in team? Nope, there is no I in team, so that is false. But there is an am in team. It's right at the end, so that is true. Here I'm trying to trip you up again. You have to be careful. This is case sensitive, so there is not a capital C in lowercase code. It's not in there. So this is false. So be careful with capitalization. Okay, and now for the last part here is the logical operators and, or, and not. So remember, not just reverses the truth value from false to true or true to false, and is going to check whether all of the comparisons or all of the Boolean expressions are true, or is checking whether at least one of them is true. So this first one here, 7 does equal 7, so that would be true, and then not is reversing it. So this becomes false. So it's false that 7 does not equal 7, basically. Here we're going to check each of these comparisons individually. So the first one is true, 8 is greater than 7. The second one is false. And so it's not true that 8 is greater than 7 and 8 is greater than 9, because that second part is false. Now here we have an or between those two comparisons instead. So for or, as long as at least one of them is true, it'll be true. So the first one here, 8 greater than 7 is true. So that's true overall. Just run these and confirm. Okay. Here's another one with not. So 4 greater than or equal to 5 is false, but not is going to reverse that and make it true. Here's another or. So 5 greater than 6, that's false. 5 greater than 5 is false. 5 greater than 4 is true. So as long as at least one of them is true, then it'll be overall true when you're using ors. Here's one with and. So 3 greater than or equal to 2, that's true. 2 greater than or equal to 1, that's true. 0 equal 1, nope, that's false. So they have to all be true for the ands. All right, now this one's a little bit tricky, but let's do one step at a time. So this first part, 5 equal 5, that's true. 4 equal 4, that's true. But we have not in front of this one, so that's going to reverse that to be false. So we have an and followed by something that's false, then it's going to be false overall. So I might give you some with mixed operations like this. This one, I put parentheses to make it clear the order of operations here. It would be evaluated the same even if those weren't there, but sometimes, like on this next one, it actually would be different if the parentheses weren't there. So make sure you remember parentheses always go first. So we're going to do not 5 greater than 4. So 5 greater than 4 is true, but with the not, this whole part becomes false. But then we have an or, so maybe the second part is true. So let's check 5 less than 4. Nope, that's also false. So both parts around the or are false. Then we don't have at least one of them being true. That's false overall. Okay, now again, we're going to do the parentheses first. So 5 greater than 4, yes, that's true. And I have an or, and then it doesn't really matter what the second one is because I already found at least one of them is true. So this part inside the parentheses is true, but the not is going to reverse it to be false. So you just have to apply all these little rules. It's kind of time consuming, but yeah, pretend you're Python. So this one, I think this is a little bit tricky unless you're absolutely sure about your order of operations. So not should come first. But if you had forgotten about that, you might end up doing this wrong. So 5 greater than 4 is true. The not is going to reverse it to be false. Okay, and then the second part here is also false. So overall, this should be false. But that one is a little harder because we don't have the parentheses. Let me go ahead and print these. Just double check. Okay, so here we do have some parentheses to do first. So 5 greater than 4 is true. And then I have an or. So I already found one true part. That means this is true overall. And then we have an and, but the second part is false. So I have a true, and then an and then false. With true, you need both parts to be true. So this is going to be false. All right, and then lastly, let's do the parentheses here first. So 5 less than 5, that is false. So I already know because it's and I saw one part is false. I already know this whole part here is going to be false overall. But we do have an or here. So the part before the or is true. So we have a true on one side of the or and then a false on the other side. For or, we only need at least one part to be true. So this is going to be true. So what you see here on these last two is actually kind of interesting. The only difference between these two is where I put the parentheses in, but it actually made them have two different answers. So that's why, sometimes you need parentheses to go in there to make sure you get the answer that you were expecting to get. All right, so that is it for part 1A. I'm going to stop the video here and resume in the next video.